We got all the animals.
You ready to rock and roll on this?
Yeah.
I'll try not to deviate too much.
Deviate from what?
The task at hand.
Oh.
I'll try not to bring up any more wildlife.
Yeah, you definitely can't break that out into its own little video.
Right.
No one will care.
Yeah, so this, I had read it. I read it on time, or so I thought. I even read it to my son before bed a couple nights ago, but I didn't know it had a backup story until I was like looking on like the Legion of Super-Bloggers, and it was a review of it talking about that Projectra story. The Projectra story is not on the bootleg site.
What?
So when I read all the way, when I thought I had read all the Legion issues before, I was wrong. I missed that story until today.
Oh, weird.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you like pulled out the actual comic book today or what?
No, I don't actually have that issue, not a physical copy. And that is the last issue collected in the DC archive format. And I don't have those later volumes. So
okay, yeah, I was just thinking I might have it in a reprint in one of those newer Superboy and the Legion books, but it's not in that, huh?
No, this one starts the very next issue. So I had no idea.
But then how did you say you got hold of this Projectra story today?
I went ahead and paid $2 and got it from Comixology so I could read it. That 5-pager. It's a little rough.
Yeah. Here, let me introduce the issue and then we'll start talking about it.
Oh, yes. So this is cover dated November of 1977. It is Superboy and the Legion of Super-Heroes, number 233. Written by Paul Levitz and drawn by Legion fan favorite James Sherman. With Bob, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Wiacek?
Yeah, inked by Bob Wiacek. He's one of the better Sherman inkers, in my opinion. Better than Jack Abel was.
Right.
On Sherman. I like Jack Abel, but inappropriate for Sherman, in my opinion.
Do you remember is this pretty early on? And James Sherman only did like a handful of these. This isn't the first one he did, is it? Probably not.
I don't think so. I don't remember either, though. But I feel like he actually did more than I remember him doing.
Right.
But it's because so many of them are ones that are not that great art wise. Like it's not like the full form of Jim Sherman, because there's Sherman and Abel jobs.
Right. I think some of his earlier ones, like they're not. You could flip through it and maybe not immediately recognize it as him. Like maybe it's because of that inker. Maybe he hadn't kind of found his style yet.
This one, it looks pretty good. I don't. Mm-hmm. There are some funky parts that I'm not sure who's responsible, whether it's Sherman not being all the way there yet, or if it's Wiacek not knowing what to do. But in general, pretty solid looking comic book.
Right. I kind of wonder if he was an influence on Lytle, because I see certain commonalities in the way they cast shadows on faces.
Yeah, he did a lot of that double lighting type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, this comic begins with some Legionnaires confronting some Scalarian raiders who are trying to get the hyper time gizmo.
Yes. Are these characters previously established?
That's what I was going to ask you. They appear briefly in this issue, and they say something like, oh, these guys are getting real bold, as if it's like an ongoing, like Paul Levitz thing, maybe.
Right. And they don't really make any mention of the fact that they're all ladies, which makes me think maybe they've appeared before. And that does sound like a familiar storyline.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they use them later, and they're all blue, like that. Even that girl Kono, who's in the 5 years later, is a Sclarian Raider, right?
Oh, I don't think
But
I made that connection, but yeah,
I'm pretty sure
isn't
that's
she?
the deal.
She was like, was she yellow?
She was blue skin with, I think, blonde hair or white hair.
Kono was?
I think so. I could be wrong. Not always right.
She had yellow skin. She had yellow skin.
Okay. Yellow skin and white hair. Yeah. I wonder why I thought she was light blue. Oh, you know who's light blue is those robot guys they had.
The ones without the eyes?
Yeah, the
Or the
probes.
face? Yeah. And Shadowless.
Right. Well, anyway, they retconned these characters to be yellow and not blue, like I thought.
Okay.
But it's like a matriarchal culture of hijackers.
Right. It says right here, Skalar, a planet where women know their place, being in control. All rights and privileges are held exclusively by females, and the men are acknowledged solely for their necessary role in the procreative process.
That's in the Kono Who's Who page you just showed me. There's a part in this when they're fighting the Legionnaires, then they say they imply that Sclaria doesn't have technology because it's being. One of them says the Sclarian people need the technology you Terrans hoard, and we will get it, even if we have to wipe out half of Terra in the process. I mean, that's kind of a political thing that I don't think anybody's ever followed up on. That, I mean, it wasn't in this comic anyway about Earth hoarding the technology at the expense of other cultures of people.
It is interesting that they're specifically gunning for the hyper time device. Like, what use would that be for them?
Yeah, maybe they're just going to sell it, or time travel. That's weird.
I guess.
But they say they've been hijacking a lot of other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll find out later. But it turns out they best the Sclarian Raiders.
Yes.
In this fight, and
there's a bunch of great drawings. We're zipping past there. I love the Lightning Lad getting punched up out of the panel there, and that Brainiac 5 in the lower left. I guess the shadows there. Like,
this wasn't too clear to me. Maybe I read it too fast. Brainiac 5 just kind of shows up, and he's like, "I got my belt, my force field belt. Superboy's going to do the rest."
Mm-hmm. He's hiding in the shadows.
Yeah, like I guess he's here on the previous page, but he's just not doing anything until he saves the day,
as he often does. It's another great panel. Zip past. I love that. The Superboy whisking off the two lady soldiers.
Yeah, with a big explosion.
It's very unusual. Like, I don't think any comic from this time looked like this. I think this kind of foreshortening and stuff you'd see a lot more of later. But
what do you call that? Where like it's like the plane that's between the viewer and far in the distance, like you would move stuff along that instead of just side to side. Yeah, 3D kind of depth of field type of stuff. Oh yeah, what I noticed a lot in this issue is the way Jim Sherman is really using the mirror effect of Wildfire's helmet all over the place. Like here's a good example of like he's speaking to Starboy and Dream Girl,
right?
And you can tell by the reflection in his face, reflection.
Right, and that's something he continues to do to great effect in later issues.
Yeah, I think when he's like in stories where he inks himself, or maybe when like I think it's Bob McLeod does it. He's a little bit McLeod's maybe a little bit tighter on the inks than Wiacek is. But yeah, they've got their hyper time drive back to the headquarters. Here's Ron Vidar. He's drawn in his Lederhosen style, but he's not colored correctly. He's just colored like he's in the army. And Ron Vidar is a boy. They keep calling him saying he's young in this issue.
Yeah, he is young. Like I said, I need to dig up his first appearance, but I think he's like a kid, like much shorter than the rest of them when he first appeared.
Oh, wait, one more thing on this page.
Yes.
Wildfire is yelling at Starboy and Dream Girl for romancing.
Once again.
Yeah, when there's work to do. He refers to the street in front of Legion headquarters as Metropolis Street. I guess maybe Metropolis Street goes through Nolan Plaza or Weisinger Plaza. Is it Metropolis Street or is it the Avenue of the Superheroes?
I don't know. I don't remember any other reference to Metropolis Street.
Yeah, me neither. I think I remember one time where they said Legion headquarters was on Clinton Street, where Clark Kent's apartment is. Was that Legion headquarters or was that someplace else? Maybe it was the old Legion headquarters, the clubhouse. Maybe that's on Clinton Street.
Yeah, I'm a little hazy on the location because I remember early on they said it was in Smallville and that Smallville had become a mega city. And then somewhere along the line, it became Metropolis. So I don't know, maybe the rocket ship was in Smallville and they moved to Metropolis, or maybe the cities crawled together. Not sure. This has this funny parallel to, I think, the first issue we talked about, because if I remember right, Brainiac 5 was in charge and he was complaining about everybody smooching. And they're like, you're just jealous because of your cold computer brain. You don't understand affection or love. But here we have Wildfire, who's the leader, saying no hanky-panky right now. And of course, he doesn't have a body.
Right. It's like a new generation of leaders and team members in conflict. He must not have any kind of libido, a Wildfire. I don't know how he had a relationship with Dawnstar.
I don't know. Has she appeared yet?
I don't think she has.
It's got to be pretty close to now, but maybe it hasn't happened.
Here's another cool reflection thing I just noticed on this, where this is like the front of Legion headquarters and it's like a glass door. I didn't even catch that. Oh,
I didn't either. I thought that was a different panel.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe it is kind of, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of an establishing shot.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But it's colored so literally that you can't tell it's supposed to be a reflection.
Right. Maybe the colorists didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably just skimmed over it like we did.
Right. Good eye, David.
I also kind of like this page layout's kind of interesting, but yeah, I just noticed that this is like one scene, but with a panel border in the middle of it.
Yeah, I find that kind of jarring though, in this case, because panel 2, there's obviously time, like it starts from the bottom with them small growing large, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that presumably is happening a moment after the first panel. But his giant hand in that. You know what I mean?
Is he shrinking? No, because
Well,
he's
it would
big in the
make
next
sense. It would
panel.
make more sense if he was shrinking, yeah. But
And then they're inside this lab. Like, how come they're doing all this stuff at Legion headquarters instead of the Time Institute? Doesn't really say, I guess.
are you sure?
Maybe they don't have the Time Institute. Maybe he hasn't introduced it yet.
Right. It's probably something like that. Because Professor,
Circadius Senius.
surely he would be here if he existed for this.
Right. But instead, we've got Jackson Rugarth.
Yeah, I was going to say, because if he did exist and was here, he would probably tell them they're idiots for doing this. It's always funny. It's a funny driver in many Legion comics, including the very first one, that they have the intelligence and technology to travel through time, but they're just doing idiotic things that nobody should ever do with time travel. You know, hey, let's go fuck with the most pivotal person in DC history while he's a teenager. That won't mess anything up.
And in this one, they've got, like, they're doing a experiment with a live human for whatever reason. Like, he volunteered, but like,
right.
Couldn't you time travel like an object that's not alive altogether just to try it? But he does have a rad kind of armor, half armor time traveler suit, which,
right.
I don't know. He went the extra mile. Sherman went the extra mile designing this. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So he gets in the hyper time thing, and next thing you know, he's back and he's the Infinite Man.
Yeah. Just 1 second later, they think he must have not traveled at all. He returns so quickly. Surprisingly, no like corrosion or, you know, you'd think if this device had traveled the history of the entire universe several times over, it would at least have a little bit of rust or a couple cracks on it or something.
I guess
covered
that means
in ice, like the DeLorean.
Yeah, or the Terminator.
Right.
I guess that just means that time travel or the time stream is a vacuum. I don't know. He gets this. I mean, he goes from one rad costume to another one. I guess it takes him millions of years to develop this outfit with the headdress and the purple onesie and the kind of see-through body.
Yes, time well spent.
Yeah, obviously he didn't spend an infinite number of lifetimes in like design school or anything like that.
Right. He's a little Galactus-ish between like the purple headdress and even his origin is vaguely similar to Galactus's because Galactus supposedly came from the previous universe and he was in a ship for like millions of years while the new universe was forming, and I think he was somehow absorbing all the energy, and then he emerged from his ship as this new form. You know, it's a very similar origin in that way.
They have sort of a montage, I guess, to represent all of history, and there's a like a slave galleon and a biplane and a Model T and a horse and wagon, the Sphinx, volcanoes, and I guess this is the hyper time thing he was in, right? Yeah,
the circle.
And then this is, I don't know what, a very fancy spaceship. No, this little mushroom looking thing.
Another Enterprise, another starship.
Yeah, definitely curvy Enterprise right here.
Right.
And then he brings up some dinosaurs to fight the superheroes. Like, what do time travel guys ever do is but bring up dinosaurs?
Well, yeah, dinosaurs are awesome.
I guess so. It's kind of strange that it's just so often it's like, I'm going to bring something dangerous from the past, dinosaurs. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, how about a saber-tooth tiger?
Or how about the Black Plague?
But yeah, we get to see Superboy punching a T-Rex.
Mhm.
And Infinite Man is now, well, Jackson Rugarth, now Infinite Man. He's pissed at Ron Vidar for doing this to him. Here's Colossal Boy fighting that T-Rex too.
Much as Mon-El should be at Superboy for leaving him in that Phantom Zone for 1,000 years.
That's what I thought. And this, did you notice this drawing here of Infinite Man? I think this is the same drawing that they used. I think somebody redrew this as the basis for like the Infinite Man Who's Who page in maybe Who's Who in the Legion, where he's kind of got his arms kind of back, elbows back behind him a little bit.
Oh yeah, but isn't he like head on in his Who's Who? Maybe you're right.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking it was Who's Who in the Legion and not regular Who's Who.
Oh right.
It looks like just Infinite Man's kind of beating up Superboy.
Right.
Superboy bounces on the ground, and then Superboy goes back in time or to another dimension. He flies through some dimensions here. I think the coloring isn't doing this panel any favors, but looks like he's doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, he sent him into some strange limbo, like maybe somewhere.
Yeah, it says many dimensional barriers
beyond, like somewhere in between time and space or something. But it seems that Superboy's been here a time or two. He knows his way back, no sweat.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It says Superboy has spent countless hours exploring the many levels of the universe, which I didn't know he did that. I didn't know he was that. Like instead of going to high school, he's out exploring the levels of the universe. I guess a lot of high school kids do stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't think he needs to sleep back then. So.
And here Superboy comes back out from the many levels and he punches Infinite Man. We get to see Infinite Man's little toesies down here.
Oh, yeah. It's a pretty good foot drawing.
It's not bad.
Hard to do.
Infinite Man escapes. Yeah, I don't know. I found this issue a little boring, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like there's some Jim Sherman flourishes with the mirror stuff that he's doing all the way through. But I don't know. This was the Legion issue 18 that we just looked at.
Right.
Like it's a very fitting sequel in that they're both super dull comics.
Right.
I don't know. Infinite Man, he looks cool and it's like kind of a neat idea, but I don't know. He wasn't used very effectively. He's a super powerful time travel guy. He's real pissed. And he's got a real grudge. And what does he do? He comes and he like throws dinosaurs at you and cavemen at you.
Right.
And I don't know. They defeat him.
It seems like he'd be a lot more godlike or omnipotent or something, having that much time to think about everything. But he's like, oh, I underestimated these guys. I'll be back. I need to just go figure out what to do. I'll be right back.
And then in this page, it explains that it says, were this land subject to time as others know it, it would seem that a millennium had passed while he practiced. But to the Infinite Man, it has only been an irrelevant interval.
Right.
So like he's there practicing his revenge for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's still just like, I mean, he's not too different from us, right? He's still subject to the foibles, and he just still wants revenge even after infinite millennia or whatever.
Maybe he wasn't that sharp to begin with. I don't know. I feel like if I had to watch the universe begin and end several times over while waiting to reconfront the same 3 or 4 people I dealt with before I got in the chamber, I'd have a better game plan. I'd know exactly which guys I'm going to call out from time. I'll get like the Kryptonite Man for you, and I'll get, you'd think he'd have a better plan.
Yeah, but yeah, what he does is he comes back with, instead of just dinosaurs, I think he has cavemen the second time. There's this, on this page, Dream Girl, she goes to Naltor to try and get some help in defeating Infinite Man, but doesn't get any help. She just leaves again.
Right. They send all three of them off in different directions, right? And all of it seems utterly pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, it's Brainiac 5. He seems to not have gotten anything, but
you're right.
he's the one who saves the day.
That's true.
But it's not, there's no clue on this page that he has gotten the information that he needs to save the day. He just says, I actually got it, in spite of what that page said.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out why they spent so much time with Dream Girl and Phantom Girl specifically. If they were just dead ends, it made me wonder. Like, is Levitz planting some seeds here for a later story with like these strange energy guys on the mountain?
He must be trying to expand the whatever, the mythology a little bit, like they explain a little bit of how the High Seer works on Naltor.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of explain some of the workings of Kolu. This is a funny part where like there's this guy drawn holding a big stack of pages just so Brainiac 5 can get belligerent and knock it out of his hands. And then I thought the guys on whatever this place is where Phantom Girl goes, that was kind of an interesting story. I've never seen these guys again.
Right, and they're not. This isn't her home, unlike the other two.
They're just other intangible people.
Right, that guy in the middle. If you look at his face, like the bottom part of it is another face. Yeah. If you look at his chin, you see it?
Oh, yeah, I do see it. Oh, yeah, I didn't even catch it the first time. Yeah, it's like a face looking downwards.
Right.
That's kind of cool. But see, like, Levitz immediately undermines himself by having her go, and these guys, and she explains that these guys are too far removed from humanity to understand or care about their problem. So it's like, well, if they're, then why would you introduce these guys if they're so useless that we'll never really care about seeing them again, or just like they're not going to do anything for us? It's really weird. I don't know what his impetus for introducing the timeless ones of Gendix was. They've survived eternity.
We'll have to look into that and see if they do, in fact, show up later.
Yeah, I wonder. I have no recollection of them. Yeah.
Right.
On the previous page, there's this is kind of a classic kind of Jim Sherman pose.
Yeah.
Butt first kind of pose. He likes to like spread legs and butt with double shadow on it.
Right. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great angle to draw a hero at or a superhero at, in a way. It's like you don't see it very often, and you can kind of get their legs out of the way so they fit in the pan a little bit better.
Yeah.
And he also has a way of drawing lightning lad too, where lightning, he's like kind of bracing his legs with his knees bent a little bit to hold back all that power that he's blasting out.
Mm-hmm.
And here, here's the dinosaur. Colossal Boy is beating up a Pteranodon or whatever that is. This is kind of a neat panel too. So, Infinite Man has done something to like warp these guys, and there's this Starboy all twisted up.
Yeah, it's a Ditko-ish panel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Infinite Man kind of owes a lot, or the designs and the environs of Infinite Man kind of owes a lot to Ditko. I don't know how they do this. Like they have to draw it and ink it and then say print inverted for all of this stuff. Don't you think? It's like a weird printing.
You don't think they just... Well, wait a minute. Are you talking about the drawing side of it, or?
Yeah, like on the
You don't think they just put white out on top, or?
Well, but see, look at they could have done white paint here on the Starboy, for example, to show like the feathering on the muscles and stuff. I don't know. It just looks a little too fine a line, and like they have more, like he has more control over the white paint than I've ever had over any kind of white paint I've tried to use on comics.
Right.
But yeah, it could be. I think sometimes they'll do stuff like Giffen, I think, would do stuff where it's like you can tell he drew it one way and then told them to print it negative.
I'm sure this was really complicated to do. I mean, he's already in a sort of strange position here. So to make sure that it's clearly a man that we're looking at, he's got to put all these strange, he has to, in white, do all the musculature on top of the star.
Yeah, we're getting to the end of this, huh? Brainiac 5 gives Ron Vidar his force field belt. And then they do some kind of crap where they overload the machine. Oh, here's the caveman finally. Anyway, Brainiac's plan, however he got it, was to protect Ron Vidar and then blow up or short circuit overload this hyper time drive thing. Looks like Superboy does that, and they zap him, and then he goes back into the void of timelessness. And then also everything that he brought to the 30th century from the past goes back to the past conveniently.
Of course.
But he looks like he's really wrecked Legion headquarters here. And then Brainiac 5 says something along the lines of let's get Jackson Rugarth restored and bring him back and fix him. We'll have to keep working on that. They always do so good at that, right? Like we don't see Jackson Rugarth again for a decade, but whatever.
Right.
And he's still bad. They don't help him. they bring him out and they put him back in again.
We should probably keep a tally of all the forgotten heroes or people they promised to cure and just were completely abandoned. That's definitely a trope in comics.
Well, it's like a Brainiac 5 trope too. Wasn't there an issue where he's like, look, I got Infinite Man, I got Daniel Folkart, I got Mon-El, whatever. I guess he'd already rescued Mon-El by then, but
right.
All right. Well, what'd you think of this Infinite Man story?
I don't know. Like, I enjoyed it, but not because the story was good, probably as much as I enjoyed the artwork. Like, I enjoyed the experience of reading the pages, but at the end, I mean, it doesn't really add up to a great story necessarily.
I agree. I don't think it's a great story at all. It was kind of boring, like kind of wordy. There's also those weird dead end things with the little team trying to figure out how to stop him. And then he doesn't seem like he's that big of a threat when all's said and done.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it almost, in some places, it almost seems like it's like a showcase for Jim Sherman's art. Like there's a bunch of really great drawings, and like Paul Levitz is just trying to make a story out of it. I'm sure that's not really the case, but I know a lot of Image comics were constructed that way.
Yeah, well, it's, I mean, speaking of which, I think this next story is constructed that way. It says based on an idea by Mike Nasser, the artist. Even though there's nothing exciting that Mike Nasser chooses for himself to draw in this either, but
I don't know about that. I think he was probably very excited when he was drawing those pages. They look like he had a stack of pen houses, and he flipped through them looking for poses on every page.
I agree with that. Yeah, this is I don't know, kind of a pointless story. For some reason, Princess Projectra falls into a coma because Karate Kid goes to the past for his own comic book series.
Right.
And these three characters are trying to get to the bottom of it and pull her out of the coma. This crazy redesign of Chameleon Boy here with the.
Is this where that first shows up? Surely not.
I don't remember ever seeing him look like this.
Didn't he?
He looks super strange.
You mean just his ears, or do you mean the costume? Because he wore that for a little while, didn't he?
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't mean the costume. I think the
Right.
costume's been around. I mean the depiction of him with really big ears and then really
Right.
long, gangly things.
I think they were kind of drawing him never as big as they are in that particular panel, but they did seem like they made his ears a lot bigger in the 70s.
Right. That could be. I guess I should mention that this is written by Levitz, drawn by Mike Nasser and Bob Layton.
Right.
It's a backup. I don't know how much. I don't think Mike Nasser did a ton of Legion stuff, but I think maybe he did more than just this one story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but oh yeah, they show what's going on inside of her mind, and she's just on a trip to Galaxyland, like a Disneyland amusement park with a Karate Kid, and then there's this unusual pose right here of Karate Kid behind
Yeah, I feel
Princess
like that was
Projectra.
probably from one of the magazines as well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like maybe he had a tough deadline and he just had these drawings he had done for fun anyway. And it's like, kind of paint Projector's costume on top of there. And
right. Yeah, they're really enjoying each other's company at the this amusement park. But I thought the amusement park, like, it doesn't look fun at all. It's all blue. It's really a boring color job on this. Like when there's, a Ferris wheel and a roller coaster and the haunted house and the logo, like it's all just kind of a blah.
uh-huh.
And then Saturn Girl does, like, their idea is that, like, they realize that she's like living in a dream world for some reason, and their idea is to go into her dream and turn it into a nightmare.
Nothing could go wrong there, right?
Yeah, like, let's really hurt her feelings. So I guess Saturn Girl somehow turns the pleasant dream of the amusement park into a nightmare of an amusement park.
Right.
And it's also not a very scary nightmare. It's all kind of monochrome.
Where do you suppose Brainiac 5 is in this? It seems like you'd want him here.
I guess he's on that other mission where they're stopping the Sklarian Raiders and Infinite Man.
But isn't Dream Girl over there? Or no?
Yeah, she is. I don't know. She's the only one who had time to be on both adventures.
He probably would have protested against their techniques here anyway. So he needed to not be here so that they could have the clever idea to give her nightmares.
I don't know. I kind of feel like some of Brainiac 5 solutions would be worse than that.
Yeah, perhaps so.
He'd be like, let's give her a brain transplant or something.
Yeah, there's a very strange logic to, they're trying to explain what's going on, and they're saying she's turned her powers inward and she's casting illusions in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that kind of what everyone does anyway? You don't need powers to do that, right?
Maybe when your powers are so strong and you turn them on yourself subconsciously, right, it really messes you up. And then for some reason, like the cornerstone of her big nightmare is Universo. I didn't know that she would. This must be a
barefooted Universo at that.
Oh yeah, the right number of toes. Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
I mean, this must go back to like that adventure issue of Universo. Did he attack her or something? Did she have a bad experience with Universo back then?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. Like this evokes that the cover of Universo, where the thing on his chest is like hypnotizing them.
Oh, sure.
So maybe that's where this comes from. Otherwise, I don't know why they chose Universo to be like the scariest thing that she's ever seen, or whatever it is. But it doesn't work to turn her dream into a nightmare. She's still comatose. But then Chameleon Boy has an idea. They don't really explain, but I think his idea is that he'll turn into Karate Kid in her dream.
What is going on in this panel?
Oh, I didn't see that panel. Hmm.
I guess
Yeah.
maybe that's her leg.
Yeah, that is her. That's her leg.
Okay.
Like you see the line that kind of goes in between.
Right.
Like that's
Oh, I see that line
on one side of the line is her, her left leg. On the other side of the line is her right leg. It's the flesh that's just above her boots.
Okay. Okay.
And nothing else. Nothing
All right.
more nefarious than that.
Of course.
It's all safe. Comics Code approved.
Yes.
But it works to have him turn into Karate Kid.
Now, who is this? This is Chameleon Boy?
I think Chameleon Boy.
Or it's his idea.
His idea is that I think that Saturn Girl is going to project Chameleon Boy in the guise of Karate Kid into her dream. It's not explained. It's not plotted out that way.
Uh-huh.
But like, I don't know what, like, why are they giving credit to Chameleon Boy for this? How come he doesn't, like, how come it's sort of like a surprise?
He gets to have a little dream smooch with her.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's kind of funny, the 3 panels of Karate Kid disappearing, and she's necking with thin air there.
Yeah, that third panel also looks like it's like something from a porno movie where they took the guy away. He's invisible,
right?
And she's pretty cold in this panel too.
So I think this is the first time I have seen or heard that her powers are magic based. Like, I knew magic was involved on her planet and that she may know some magic, but I thought she had like a mutant or science-based power, and the magic was augmenting that. But are her powers purely magic?
I don't know.
It kind of implies that in this issue, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to read, like, maybe Shooter explained it in her origin or her first appearance or something, kind of what it is. But I mean, that's like Levitz is kind of, I guess Levitz's take is that, yeah, her powers now or came from magic. And then later when she comes back as Sensor Girl and she has more powers, she got those from magic, more magic. Like she's getting, she's like getting the superpowers, plastic surgery to get additional better powers or something just over time.
Right. I guess, yeah. I guess I kind of, Marvel has like the Scarlet Witch, and she was kind of like that too. Or the way I was envisioning Projectra, like she had like mutant powers, but she also on top of that had like knowledge of magic. So they kind of augmented it. And I kind of thought her powers were like that too, but I don't know that for sure.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the intention.
What's Mike Nasser? I'm drawing a blank on him. Has he done other issues, or?
I think he might have done a tiny bit more Legion stuff, maybe more backup stories around this same period. In my mind, he's just a 70s guy, 70s DC guy.
Okay.
I think he became Mike Netzer eventually. I think that's the same guy.
Oh, like that might have been his real name, and he initially like shortened it for some simplicity or something.
Something like that, or yeah, he became Islamic or something and changed it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Like Cat Stevens.
Yeah, like Cat Stevens or like Muhammad Ali or something.
Yeah.
Wait, Muslim, not Islamic. I don't know either way. Which is the right phraseology? Maybe he became Muslim and changed his name. I could loop this back in earlier and fix it.
Yes. Oh wow. Maybe you're right, or maybe you're right.
No, I mean I think I do know I'm right. I love to think I know I'm right.
Fascinating.
Any other details? I don't know. Just that Mike Nasser and Mike Netzer, same dude. And his drawings look kind of like this, kind of like that kind of 70s, kind of grell kind of look. Okay, so that was the final illusion by Nasser. This is the first one. There's actually 2 Legion Outposts in this issue. There's Legion Outposts. Yeah, and there's another one back here. It's called Legion Outpost Extra.
Wow.
And it's just more letters. On this one, they are advertising the origin of the Huntress, DC's most mysterious superstar. In DC Superstars 17, that's $100 comic if you got one.
Is that her first appearance?
Yeah. And they did a facsimile reprint of this 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that. I passed up on it.
I got one because I wanted to have one of them in my Legion collection, and just the other ones in with the whatever my Bronze Age comic books.
Why? What's Legion related in there?
It has the origin of the Legion is in that issue too.
Okay.
You shouldn't have passed it up, dude. You missed out. This letter is from Beth Montalone, Rochester, New York. She suggests that she might be writing in to complain about the loss of Jim Shooter as the writer, but she's actually writing to praise Paul Levitz's story that he wrote. I don't know what issue it is. It doesn't say. They're talking about the issue where Chemical King is killed. Death of Chemical King. I think that's what all these letters are about.
Alas, poor Chemical King. I think I kind of like him. Kind of thought he had potential, but he only showed up like twice, basically.
Yeah, that's what she says. The story has a lot going for it. Paul used ideas from the past in fresh, innovative way to produce a work which stands on its own merits, not on someone else's creativity. She praises the return of the Espionage Squad, the role of the Dark Circle, glimpses of 30th century life, and good characterizations in the way of Timberwolf, Saturn Girl. She likes the characterization of Chemical King.
Oh, this is where he dies that she's talking about.
Yeah, this is a letter regarding the issue of Legion where Levitz kills Chemical King, his final appearance.
Mm-hmm. There was that great issue. I think it's the only really great issue with Chemical King in it. I think it had Roxas in it, and Element Lab was going to exact revenge on him and, I don't know, turn him into salt or something, kill him. But Chemical King talked him down. He got like a good dramatic scene where he talked Element Lad out of committing murder.
Yeah, was that an adventure, or that's maybe an action issue, right?
Gosh, I have no idea. They all bleed together to me now. It may have been adventure,
but it's those ones we like. It's with like the Win Mortimer, Jack Abel artwork, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was a good comic. And then Beth Montalone also praises the Jim Sherman artwork. He's good at showing emotion, achieves individual distinctions between the heroes, something that Gorell had trouble with. Easily the best of Mr. O'Neill's tenure. That's Denny O'Neill, the editor, the best of his tenure so far. I guess Denny O'Neill is answering the letters.
Okay.
He says, we're slowly starting to get the feel of the Legion series. The Infinite Man epic in the front of this issue is as visually exciting a story as we can remember. That's about all it has going for it. That's true.
Well, it seems a little weird to me. I know it is kind of common practice for the editor to answer, but doesn't it seem like the writer should be answering the questions?
I do think so. But I mean, we know it's because the writer is busy or they're freelancers, so they don't see the letters in in this time period.
I just wonder how involved some of these editors are. I guess they got to know what's going on.
The next writer is Russell Howell, Lumberton, North Carolina. Superboy and the Legion was 228 was a fair issue, fair to everyone except Chemical King. It was sad to see that the only time he was used was when he was to be killed. Yeah. He was really treated as a king in this story. Chemical King should get a second chance to prove himself as a true Legionnaire. I hope he will get a monument for what he did for the world and for the Legion.
I believe he does.
In the Hall of Heroes, right? Surely he has a statue.
I think it's even on the cover of a couple issues. Yeah, the problem with that poor guy is, one, his power is so similar to Element Labs, and two, most of the writers probably don't have, the background in chemistry or whatever to figure out how to actually write the usage of his powers.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very difficult to come up with a story where Chemical King would be better than Element Lad at the job,
Right.
But I mean, I would love to see more science fiction-y, like hard sci-fi Legion comics. Yeah. I think that would be. I think that's a missed opportunity.
They need like a scientific advisor for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you have to really be, to know your shit.
Up on your subscription to Omni magazine.
Omni, yeah. Next letter is from Edward B. Via of Roanoke, Virginia. He's talking about the adult Legion story and deviating from it.
Oh. Have they done that yet?
I guess Chemical King maybe was killed in the adult Legion story. Or he wasn't killed in it, but he was shown to have died. And I think that must be why he brings it up. He, for one, liked that story very much and was drawn to the idea that all my favorites had survived and that many of them were carrying on the Legion as adults. Mm-hmm. He said he wasn't a bit disappointed with 228, where Chemical King died. He said, having known for some little time that Chemical King was doomed to die while saving the world, I probably wasn't affected by his passing as much as I would have been under other circumstances. I guess he's praising Paul Levitz's storytelling in that issue. Good development, he says.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how he died. I know it was saving a planet, or maybe the universe.
Yeah, I don't remember either. He's in this letter, he's talking about this character Daragon, who turned out to be I guess he was some kind of dictator, but he was also a Dark Circle agent. He says, we discovered that the tragic hero of the episode's finale, he's referring to Chemical King, was a person plagued by self-doubt. It's indeed unfortunate that Chemical King, never the most dynamic of characters, was given a personality just 10 pages before he died. But this is a case of better late than never, and there's no crying over it now. I don't really like that sentiment. Like he didn't have to be killed, so it's not a case of better late than never. Like they could have done this anytime and continued it.
I know he's probably had more stories after he died through flashbacks than he did before. Like I can think of at least 2 stories that were complete flashback stories that he was in.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of 2 after he died later on, and then 2 prior to that. Actually, 3 prior to that. So I guess I recall 5 stories. And
then there's a story, at least one story where he's a zombie.
The editor responds to Edward B. Via and says, whenever a regular character is killed, there's literally a flood of mail accusing the editor and writer of every sin in a book. 228 elicited no less. Now, this stings. He says, frankly, we think it was a good idea to get rid of Chemical King for several reasons. Get rid of him. His powers were unclear to most readers. He was not a well-developed or pivotal character in the group, and he was doomed already thanks to an earlier writer and editor. Yeah, see, that's kind of one of those things, like, you don't have to stick to that adult Legion story if you don't want to. And Levitz eventually didn't. But I guess back here, they're still trying to stick to it.
I don't know why he shot that down. I mean, I think it's an interesting constraint. Like, you don't really have to worry about it and stick to it like it's some sort of rule you can't break, but having that hang over the reader's head the whole time, I think, is an interesting thing to have. Like, this guy is someday supposed to die. Is he actually going to die, or is it going to happen differently? Like, for him to outright dismiss it, I thought was unnecessary, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you would always have that dramatic possibility, I guess. Like, oh, we know from this other story that this guy's going to die. Is it this issue?
And you could tease towards it every now and then, like, is it going to happen? And veer away. And
yeah, I mean, I could go either way on it. They say, Legion fans, look out. Iron Mike Grell has cleared time in his schedule for a very special Legion story, which we're planning to feature in 234 or 235. What's this one? 233. So maybe next issue.
Is that an old nickname, I guess? Because I always think of Iron Mike Tyson. And that wasn't until the 80s, so...
Maybe you just nickname guys named Mike.
Iron. Yeah.
Classic nickname.
Yes.
For the Mikes.
Maybe Mike Tyson was named after Mike Trout. Maybe that's where they got the nickname.
Yeah, I bet Don King was a huge Legion fan. He probably had every issue of Warlord.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so now's the Legion Outpost Extra.
Yes. Bonus.
It says, this time we're going to use our extra space for a couple of extraordinary letters. This is from Bruce Whale, Fargo, North Dakota. Oh yeah, he's complaining about the coloring. So this is kind of interesting factoids about the 70s comic book printing process. Lately, in a great number of your magazines, the quality of the coloring has decreased almost to the point of no return. I don't think it's your colorist's fault, and I'm sure your excuse is your printing process. The coloring mistakes put a damper on the excitement. When pages have red people on them, the story is ruined.
Red people?
I don't know what he means by that. One final question. How could you have released that issue, Superboy 228, in such poor condition?
Like, maybe if the plates don't hit right, like maybe the skin tone.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
He says, most of the problem, though not all, is caused by our printer, World Color Press, switching from metal printing plates to plastic for the first time, and learning all the unique nastiness that the plastic plates can cause. It will probably take some time to clear up the problems. He says, as for how we could have released the issue like that, the answer is both simple and surprising. You may have seen the problem before we did. Comic book publishers see black and white proofs of their magazines, but no color proofs of the interior. As a result, any color problems or the famous wavy boogie lines that the plastic plates can cause appear for the first time on the press, and we only see the evidence after the press run has shipped to the newsstands. He says we could correct the problem, but it would make the comic book more expensive. 32-page comic with interior color would be about $1.25, whereas this comic book is 60 cents. It would more than double in price.
What do you think the wavy boogie color is? Or if, like, the paper is shaking or not going in straight, or?
I guess so, yeah. I don't know. I'd be curious what that is.
Hmm.
I mean, I think I've seen it. I kind of think I have an idea what they're talking about, but yeah, a little concrete example would be good.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if any of these writers are still alive. Like they're mostly adults, right? At this time.
Oh,
like,
the letter writers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
surely, but they're old people.
yeah, like a guy who was 20 in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he'd be in his 60s, he'd be about 70, right?
Yeah.
65, 70. They're still out there.
Yeah.
Boomers.
I'm gonna have to contact this guy on Facebook and ask him what he was talking about.
Yeah. He'll be like, were you a liberal? This next letter is from Bill Maddox, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He doesn't want to concentrate on complaining about the past. He wants to talk about suggestions he has for the future. He's saying that the era of the Legion has not been explored. The use of the future should enable the Legion to adventure in exotic settings. So far, the settings have been no more exotic than those of the Justice League. All the aliens that have been shown that I know of have been basically humanoid. Why not have a person from a non-humanoid race apply for membership in the Legion? Checkbox. We've done that one.
Yep.
How about depicting other types of races? Methane breathers, nocturnals. Done it. Check that.
Doesn't that one guy breathe methane?
Tell us he's a methane breather.
Yeah.
Check that off the list. We did that.
Dang.
Are we to believe that only humanoid races populate the universe? If non-humanoid races are not part of the community of nations, why not? Possibly rumblings of an interstellar war on the horizon, maybe a totally separate culture that is physically interwoven with the human culture.
Surely we've had non-human aliens up to this point.
Oh yeah, there's been a ton of them. I mean, I guess maybe they're typically depicted as like wildlife and stuff, but they're aliens or creatures from other planets. They're maybe just not always super intelligent. Typically, the bad guys from other planets are just human, I guess. Like if you go back to Silver Age,
there is probably like the more monstrous looking ones are more likely to be villains.
I mean, I'm kind of curious about this idea that he has about like a looming species war between non-humanoids and humanoids in the universe. It'd be kind of crazy, kind of weird, kind of a sci-fi concept that they could do, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like a social critique, possibly. Somebody might be able to do something with that.
Right. Similar to real life.
Yeah, of course, I don't know who you would have win that war. Humans.
Yeah, you'd have the humans win and enslave all the non-human ones or whatever, take their resources, etc.
Mm-hmm. He goes on, he says, why not develop the human culture more too? Many interesting facets are brought out once when needed for a particular story, then forgotten. Why not, for your own reference, compile an index of the culture and society so that whoever is writing it at the time has the material already established to use as background? Good luck. I mean, Legion guys do that, I guess. I don't know if any other comics really.
I mean, I think that's sort of a valid criticism, especially early on, like in the 60s Legion issues. Like you'd see aliens just one time and never again, you know, like, and then if they needed an alien like that, instead of bringing those back, they'd invent some other similar thing because they weren't really keeping track.
Well, I think I'm going to play devil's advocate and say that there's an infinity of other planets out there. Like
Yes.
Why would you encounter the same ones over and over again when you could just encounter some new ones?
Yeah. You're right. And they probably, swung too far in the other direction. They're too slavishly adherent to continuity and what has happened before and what's already been established.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that is a trap. Like eventually all you're doing is you're telling Dominator stories, Cooned stories,
right?
Whatever, like what about those other, like, they don't even bring back all the weirdo villains again when they could. They use these same boring ones over and over again.
Right.
I'm glad to hear the Legion is becoming a giant comic soon. The one thing I'd like to emphasize for the Legion is to bring out the science fiction aspects. Yeah, I'm with you. Otherwise, all you have is a crossbreed Justice League Teen Titans with a lot of expensive gadgets. He asks if the JLA still exists in the 30th century. That would make an interesting storyline. Nah, it wouldn't. Despite my comments about a crossbreed JLA Teen Titans, the quality of the Legion has been fantastic. And if after the changeover to Giant, you can keep the quality up, the Legion should be around for a long time. You said a mouthful, buddy.
So is this guy under the misapprehension that or does he think it's going to switch to like a regular, like giant sized comic? Or is this during the DC explosion where they were jumping up to a higher page count? Is that what he's talking about?
That's what he means. That's a giant. This is a giant.
Okay.
I think. See, it's a DC giant. It has more pages.
Right.
That's why it had that, like, you missed out on that backup story.
Right.
Because I guess wherever you were reading only went up to 24 pages and there's actually another 10 in here or whatever,
Right. Well, a lot of those were just reprints, right? They'd supplement them with reprints.
Yeah, I think a lot of them would pad out with reprints. The editor says, we've made an effort to explore some of 30th century Earth in recent issues, and this issue has a couple of sequences on unique worlds in outer space. Pointless. But,
right.
But we agree that there's a lot of room to grow. The methane breathers in particular is a nice idea, and we can see a story brewing from it already, and we're going to use it 20 years from now.
Yeah, wait 12 years or whatever.
10 years from now.
Yeah.
This issue was not inspiring in any way, Like, I thought this was a really boring issue.
I thought the artwork, at least in the first story, was inspiring. I thought the character, the idea of the Infinite Man was inspiring. Maybe just not the execution. So,
okay, well, that's that. That was Legion, or what's this called? Superboy and the Legion 233. I'm not satisfied with this comic. Didn't really think too much of it.
Malcontent.
This is a good condition issue. I got it for 50 cents at in Peoria, Illinois.